right? You were like, oh, there's another video. And boom, right afterwards, you get the slam. But I mean, again, just so that I make this clear before everybody's here, because we're still waiting for Christian and Herbert, but we may as well start a little bit. I'm all for a compensation package for Elon. I was for it actually last year. We had that discussion before the May 2023 shareholder meeting, and I was very vocal about it, that the guy needs to be paid. I mean, who in the world, if you want to be a passive shareholder, you can be that, but we don't want him to be a passive shareholder. We want him to have a compensation and goals. And he's the sort of poker player who wants ambitious goals, who wants stuff where it's worth it. And today we have now the confirmation that worth it for him means that in the end, when all these milestones are attained, he would be back to having 25% of Tesla's shares. Now, it's a bit difficult to exactly quantify what that means, because there's always shares issued for employees and all that. But just to set it about approximately, right? At the moment, he's having 12%. He had 15% prior to selling shares for Twitter. Now we're down to 12. He also has still vesting options until 2028 from the old compensation package that will bring him back to 18. So 12 plus 6. And obviously that is still quite far away from the 25. But I mean, 7% of options in a growing market, because those milestones obviously will be set where we have increased market share, where we will have increased revenue, increased profits, doesn't seem outrageous to me. Now, what is a bit new, or certainly the first time I've seen it in my 57 years, is that the person requiring these is not doing this behind the walls with a compensation committee of the board of directors and just, this goes its flow, and then they include it in the proxy for a shareholder meeting, because that's how we will learn about the details. The details will be in the proxy that we get a couple of weeks prior of the next shareholder meeting, and the shareholder meeting, I think, will be announced at the end of this month when they publish the 10K for 2023. So given all that, oh, there's Christian. Jeff, can you pull him up? So given all that, the details of this are hashed out now and have probably been hashed out over the last couple of weeks and months. So what's the compensation committee? The compensation committee is 3 of the board members of Tesla. And it is led by Ira Ehrenpreis, a very close friend of Elon, has always been by his side. When we were in November, Sawyer and Jeff can test that. When we were in November at the Cybertruck event, Ira was there. He was one of the first 10 Cybertrucks that were delivered. He has been on the board of directors since 2007. So 16 years. When he was there in November, he was very close with Elon. He was very close with Kimball. You could feel the chemistry between the 3 of them. I would be very surprised if Ira was, against any of this. But so he's the chairperson of the compensation committee. Then you have Robin Denholm. She is the chairperson of the whole board, but she's only a member of the compensation committee. And the third member is Kathleen Wilson-Thompson. I wrote long articles about all of them. They're all accomplished professionals, and I like very much Robin, but both of these ladies are hardly ever speaking in public and all that. So my gut feeling is that given over the last couple of years, they had so many law cases against compensation committees. Remember, those board members had to give back options they had themselves. Remember that a couple of months ago? That they just feel like this is a lot, and this is now, and again, and why, and blah, blah, blah. And so I can sense a certain reluctance, and I know nothing. I'm just, blabbering what I feel about this, and that this is stuck. And then the poker player that Elon is, he throws it out there. I mean, this is the silent period up to the financial results where he should shut up on anything Tesla. Well, there we go. That was that. Also, this is not something you discuss on Twitter because it will be misunderstood. I probably misunderstand it, and probably the market tomorrow misunderstands it. So we're sitting here a little bit, trying to make the best out of it. One thing I'm certain about is that Elon will win this. If his condition is, I keep AI within Tesla and I'm not doing a new startup and I stay if I get my 25% at the end of the milestones, he will get that. There's no doubt about it in my mind. But will it be choppy tomorrow? Will it be choppy in the next couple of days because people will not appreciate the manners he has used here? Probably. So with that, I give it to my fellow friends.
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks for the intro. Yeah, the poker analogies come to mind. Chess. I mean, basically, kind of everybody checked around to Elon, using a poker analogy, and he pushed all in. But when I think about that analogy, though, he was kind of all in already in terms of like his. I mean, people are going to question this. Is fine, but in terms of building Tesla to where it is, I don't. I mean, it's not questionable that he was all in and building Tesla to where it is today. So it's an interesting analogy. Definitely pushed all in. And yeah, I'm a little for this to play out in the public. I mean, sometimes these things spill out, but usually things are at that point things are taking too long. It really shouldn't. And I don't know of another move. That's what I don't get. I mean, the all in move is the right move. It's kind of checkmate. I don't know of another another scenario, but I'm sure there's several to debate. I think for me, I was just trying to look up like Elon's percent ownership since IPO. And again, you hear me complaining about this on X, but I can't get good responses out of Chat GPT 4 and Bart, but whatever. Somebody somewhere has this because I mean, there's definitely points on kind of both sides of this argument in terms of ownership and so forth. But in terms of like I don't know how you from a process perspective you have the most visible CEO in the world not on a new forward looking milestone based compensation plan. From a process perspective that just doesn't pass the common sense test because you want to build those you want to build out like what is so Tesla went to 650 billion plus, obviously went to 1 trillion at one point. So okay, so what is the future of Tesla? You have master plan 3, so what are the milestones that are tied to that? And 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 how should the CEO be paid? I think those are kind of basic questions that need to be answered. The thing I don't agree with is this kind of distribution of money thing. Of course, Elon benefits if Tesla grows to 5 trillion. Well, then his current stake obviously grows. That's unmistakable. But that was awarded for previous milestones delivered. So now there needs to be a new set of milestones and new compensation. But like how do we get here, and like did this have to play out this way? um you know Whatever. I mean, it things aren't perfect. I think there are better ways for this to play out. I think the quiet period could also be an issue, but it hasn't. It's, I don't know, it seems like in history um it hasn't been an issue to kind of go through these things out in the public. It's going to turn into a public issue, or it's already a public issue if not resolved anyway. So with that, why don't I turn it over to other speakers who have something to say?
Yeah, I don't mind going. So it's
Hey, sir.
always leave it up to Elon to stir up some drama on a Monday night, right?
Yeah.
So my thoughts were, this is really new info that Elon is sharing, where he wants approximately 25% ownership. He hasn't really said this before, I don't think. And from my interpretation, he's basically sort of lightly threatening to leave Tesla and build tech elsewhere if he doesn't sort of have this. It's unclear if Tesla or if Elon has spoken to Tesla's board of directors about a new compensation package. I would be surprised if they haven't. But maybe the board is dragging their feet on this, and so maybe Elon is wanting to sort of send a message here. And I personally feel like Elon should get a new compensation package. Elon is basically working for free right now. That doesn't make sense, even for someone as wealthy as him. And the irony in all this is that Elon would currently have 25% Tesla ownership if he didn't sell tens of billions in stock to buy Twitter. So
Is that true? Because that's the data
I
I've
think
been
so.
looking for, Sawyer, and just trying to understand it. But again, what's done is done. But yeah, it's I guess it's part of the negotiation topic for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the way some people view it as like, Elon's asking for more control, but he gave up some of that control to buy Twitter. So yeah, I get the criticism from people. Alexandra and I briefly talked about a few things in private, but one of the ideas I had for the board of directors in a new compensation package was to create a new dual class share structure that enables Elon to have stronger voting power without having more dilution in that new package. The market cap milestone incentives would still be in place in this new package, but Elon would instead receive these new shares in the new class. I don't even know if this is possible. Alexandra and
Yeah.
I sort of talked about this.
Yeah, I think it's very complicated because Tesla from the start had a single share class, and I actually like that. We all have the same rights, and Elon keeps on telling us, if you want to boot me out, you have the power to boot me out. But what he says today is, if you want me to do AI within Tesla, understood, I could also do it outside of Tesla. Well, I need to have 25% of this at the end of the game, and honestly, I understand that. I mean, may sound a little bit chess playing or poker playing, but he has at the moment the cards in the hand.
Yeah, and
Isn't
I think we should be clear that Elon isn't asking for more money per se. He's just asking for more owning or control or voting power. So I don't think he really cares about having 100 billion, 200 billion more dollars. It's just he just wants the control.
isn't that stemming from the AI doom and gloom talk? Is the way I understand it. Do you guys
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, good conversation. I agree with a lot what Sawyer said, and I know for a lot of people this is emotional stuff. So I don't want to pile on or do anything like that. But I mean, we have to be honest. Like, this is not a good look for Tesla, the board, the company. It's just not. You don't want your CEO publicly fighting, or having a chess match with the board in the open. It's just not good for anyone. It's not good for shareholders. So I understand Elon wants to try to do something but this is predictable, right? Elon knew AI. This is coming. Elon could have talked about the board. My guess is the board is reluctant to give him the new package. Otherwise, he wouldn't try to do it with the public. I mean, again, I'm just trying to be logical through this stuff. Some of this stuff, you have to look at it with a clear head and not put your head down in the ground and just hope everything is going to go right. That's what I go by. So this is not a good situation. Is Tesla going to be fine long term? Probably. Will this get worked out? Probably. But in the meantime, the stock has suffered. The Tesla board looks weak again, or strong, and maybe Elon looks weak if he doesn't get what he wants. And to Sawyer's point, if he goes all in, like Jeff was saying, what if the Tesla board calls him and he doesn't have the right hand? Is Elon willing to walk? It seems like he's decided that he might. So I'm not saying he is or anything, but I'm sure that's something that's on the table that Elon has considered, and he might walk away from Tesla and do other projects if he doesn't get his way. Because I agree, I've never heard about this 25%. This is the first time that he's been talking that he needs more control. Because we've heard him say that he's not really doing it for the money. He's really not doing it for power, that famous interview. And now we have a complete reversal. So we could spin this any way we want. We could, we could talk it any way we want to feel good about it. But the situation's not great. I'm sure he'll recover. I'm sure Tesla will recover. It's a great company. But the situation is not a great situation. And anyone putting on a spin that this is a good thing is misinformed.
Hey, should we read some of these tweets or posts coming out from Elon
Yes,
in
please do,
response to?
Ken. Go ahead.
Okay, so I pinned them to the top of this page for you guys. The original post says, I'm uncomfortable growing Tesla to be a leader in AI robotics without having approximately 25% voting control, enough to be influential, but not so much that I can't be overturned. Unless that is the case, I would phone call coming in. So
there's a breaking tweet, Xander, sorry to interrupt, from Elon.
yeah, so
did you see the one that just came out that I said I should note?
yes, that's exactly what I was gonna read. So I should note that the Tesla board is great. The reason for no new compensation plan, in quotes, is that we are still waiting for a decision in my Delaware compensation case. The trial for that was held in 2022, but a verdict has yet to be made. I put compensation plan in quotes because from my standpoint, this is primarily about ensuring the right amount of voting influence at Tesla. If I have 25%, it means I'm influential, but can be overridden if twice as many shareholders vote against me versus for me. At 15% or lower, the for/against ratio to override me makes a takeover by dubious interests too easy. I would be fine with a dual class voting structure to achieve this, but am told it is impossible to achieve post-IPO in Delaware.
Well, that answers that.
There you go. You were actually on the right path, Sawyer, with the dual class voting rights. But but like
that
I
was
said,
good.
but
Oh, go
like
ahead.
I said, it seems impossible given the basic structure they have in place for the last 16 years. I think his tweet right now is spot on. I mean, as I've been saying all afternoon, they were really put under scrutiny in those cases. I didn't realize there was still one that was waiting for a verdict. So that may actually put into harm what he has already received, right? He has 6% outstanding in option, but all that may actually be put in question if the verdict comes in. I mean, then could be appeal and whatever. But
Commenting
the
on
main,
an active case.
well, that's just whether they can do it before. I have no idea.
Yeah,
This is crazy.
I will. And Elon again, and I love Elon. I love what he's doing next. But like he's commented on this before, Alexandra. He talked about the dual. I think Zuckerberg has that with Facebook or one of them, and he always criticized that, saying Tesla didn't have that structure. And he used to brag about Tesla's structure that if the shareholders vote a certain way, they could do certain things, and I'm not in complete control. He used to brag about that. I guess AI has changed that for him, and now he wants more power and control. So a man is free to change his mind. It looks like he's backtracked from what he used to say before.
Yeah. Well, I think this most recent tweet kind of, turns this into like, hey, we're negotiating in good faith, and we just need to figure it out versus we're at complete odds and not talking. If that makes sense, I feel better about it after this tweet.
Yeah,
but
that tweet makes it better. Yep.
Yeah, this makes it
How do
even
you
more
guys
clear
feel?
that this is about
Go ahead,
control
Sawyer.
rather than money.
Yeah, it's about power, control of
Sawyer,
Tesla.
Sawyer, your point then is your point about Twitter. Then he said at least 15%. I think he'd have well over that. Without again, he had to sell some in 2021 to pay a $12 billion tax bill or something like that. But yeah, the other stuff, I don't know. I said I would go through the math, but looks like he's looking for at least
a total
15.
of 33 billion over the recent years. 11 of that was for tax reasons, and then the other 21, 22-ish was for Twitter.
Exactly. And he will have to sell some if he exercises the options in 2028, which he will probably do at the very last moment. I'll call up Larry.
Got it.
Pulled up Larry, pulled up Sat, and waiting for Herbert. But Larry, go ahead.
Hey guys, great to be here. I've been away the whole day, had a lot of other stuff going on, but got back to X to find out all this stuff going on. I just a couple of observations. Elon's original sale of stock was really done because he felt obliged to pay some taxes. He felt the sting of the criticism that he had paid very little tax. He had paid zero tax in 2018, actually, because he had a tax credit from 2017. The press wouldn't let go of that. He felt necessary to pay some taxes. He actually ran a poll, and asked whether he should sell shares to pay taxes. The poll resulted in came back positive. Whether he had intended or not, he actually sold shares in order to pay, his record ever tax payment. Whether or not that was his motivation because of the criticism, or whether the motivation was he just wanted to get himself out of debt, is unclear. But that's what he did, and that's what he said. The next sale of stock was really to acquire X, or Twitter at the time. And that was, that came very hard on the heels of his sale of his original sale of stock. All of that in the frame of the fairly significant amount of stock options that he had obtained as a result of his previous payment package. Now, all of this is, debatable and could be framed one way or the other way. Those are not the facts. Those are just, sentiments from each person and questioning or accepting his perspective or his stated perspective. On the other hand, those that study the company do understand that he is a driving force in that company. I was amongst those people extremely impressed by the depth of management and the capability of management and the experience of management at the top layer of the company that we were exposed to originally at Investor Day, and more across the board. And one of the hallmarks of Elon's leadership is accumulating and institutionalizing very strong management. We've seen it at SpaceX in spades. We've seen it in Tesla. So I recognize he has an extraordinary ability to attract and retain really strong management. There's been some turnover, and that's highlighted very strongly. But the fact of the matter is that he has this ability to attract, or his companies. He's built a culture where his companies have the ability to attract very, very committed management. So, from my perspective as a shareholder, I am aligned very strongly with those people who want to ensure that he has a good package. Now, the previous package was flawed in the sense that it attracted an enormous amount of legal issues, and those legal issues are still going on today, and they're mitigating against coming up with a package right now. I think that's a separate issue from the issue that Elon now raises, which is I want 25% in order to have the ability to steer the company in the way it should. And I think that sentiment is arising from his realization that his situation in the company could be challenged, and in the Wall Street world could be generally equates to will be. So I think he has a point. I also think that, he currently has no employment agreement and really should have. It's distasteful that there is a court case going on that's limiting us or limiting the shareholders from actually implementing some sort of employment agreement. So I think it's very important. Having said all of that, I think it's very important for for us as shareholders to separate two issues. The one issue is his package and how we pay him and how we reward him. The other issue is his control. If Elon wants 25% of the company, quite apart from his employment agreement, he really needs to pay the price. He needs to pay the price, of buying up that differential, or he needs to work with his partners, and he has many, to acquire that position or to consolidate that position, and that's a doable thing. So I think we need to separate those two issues and talk about those two issues completely independently. The one issue is, what should the man be paid? I'm one of those who are more on the liberal side because I think he brings an enormous amount to the table and we should reward him accordingly. On the other side, the 25% is his own metric. It is in the company's interest to try and help him achieve that goal because, what we don't want is we don't want him to focus his new startups outside of Tesla. And that's always the risk we face when we allow our management to have more than one interest. So those are, I think, the issues on the table. I think the board has its work cut out for it. I don't think it's done the work yet. I think the work has to be done. So I'm not here to say.
Did you see his most recent tweet, Larry? Because I have the feeling reading that tweet that the board and him actually agree, have hashed it out how they want to do it. I'm not sure they want him to bring cash to purchase the shares, but that it is whatever way it will be structured. I'm sure they're going to be clever about it. But I think they don't want to or can't move, except if they find the loophole, before that Delaware verdict is rendered.
Right, that Delaware verdict could possibly threaten his existing holding. I've read the court's verdict and the appeal. I think he's going to win handily, and that would be the best outcome from the perspective of the current shareholders of Tesla. And I think that would clear the way for the board to come to an accommodation with Elon, which will be challenged in court in due course. So, I mean, I haven't read the latest tweet, but that's how I read the current situation.
Seth, go ahead.
Yeah, I do agree with most of everything that Larry's saying, but one thing I do kind of disagree is I don't find an issue with his previous compensation package, because in the early days he wasn't getting paid and the risk of bankruptcy was really high, so nobody cared. But because he became so successful and Tesla is valued more than an auto company and the valuation is like 4 times more than Toyota, now they're afraid of him because he has much more assets and net worth and power for that reason. So they're more afraid of that. That's the way I see it. And the reason why I find that to be a consistent pattern with anything that Elon does is that you look at the counterpart of his position, CEO of Lucid, CEO of GM, like they all have compensation packages. They're not doing better with their businesses. Their performance isn't better. Their compensation does not seem to fit for it, but it's in the millions. 17 million to 28 something million, but it's not billions because they're not a founder. So that's the difference. Like, yet their performance does not match their compensation package, but it's so small compared to the influence that he has. They don't have a problem with them, but they have a problem with Elon. So if they're going to put the same microscope on Elon, they should be all saying to other CEOs, why are they getting paid millions and millions of dollars? They lay off employees, they cut programs for EVs and like divesting away from their future. I don't see that to be fair. So that's why it's like if they're going to be that much of a gun ho thing about going after Elon in the course, they should go after the CEOs who's not performing. Their compensation package doesn't make any sense, but because it's a business as usual, they're okay to get paid millions, even though they're not necessarily doing a better job with their businesses, even taking over 10 years. Then it's okay. We don't need to take them to court. But if Elon does something and it's visionary, changes the whole thing, then they have a problem with him. So I don't find that to be an issue. And the turning point right now is that he's acknowledging that Tesla is an AA company now, not a car company. So it's not people focus on the money part. It's not the money part. It's about that what that entity and integrity of that AI technology is going to be used for. So the shift is happening now. He's just doing it beforehand because you see other internet companies like Meta, Google, they remanufacture their their shares. So shareholders have the common stock and they have the preferred one. It's 10-1 in some case, so the founders can't be outvoted because it's about any shareholder policy or proposals that comes up, they can outvote it basically. It's not about integrity. It's not about like morality of the business. It's a very different thing that Elon is doing that the other CEOs and founders have done.
Exactly. And our participation in it is much more direct than anybody, than any of the shareholders has in the other companies, just because of the single class system that is there, which has advantages and disadvantages like everything. So I just think that, today was blown out of proportions. I mean, if the stock goes lower tomorrow, be my guest, because I got all my 401k and IRA money to invest for this year. So I had no idea why I was waiting, but if I'm waiting for that one tomorrow, be my guest. But I'm not going to get out of Tesla because of this mini drama, which is what it is. It's just another mini drama, and there's, in my view, nothing fundamentally changed. If you're fundamentally an issue with Tesla, be it. But if you have no issue, then that T-shirt folding teleguided bot today should have brought you a lot of joy, and you can probably ignore all that because it all depends on when the lawyers will give them green light that they can do it. And I guess they are running out of time because the shareholder. I mean, it all depends how strategic they're about the shareholder meeting. Remember last year it was in May. So normally it should be in May. They can pull it a little bit forward and they can push it a little bit back. But if it's more than a couple of weeks, they need to announce it. So for a much earlier date, it's probably already too late. We'll have probably the date in the 10K. Guess it's going to be May, but we'll see. And then 45 days, if I remember right, before the shareholder meeting, we will receive those proxies. I don't remember, was it 25 or 45, but one or the other. And in that proxy, the text has to be in there. And if it's not in there, then it's not going to be voted at this year's shareholder meeting. You could do an extraordinary for that, but I doubt that they will, be able to do that. So they're sort of running out of time if they're waiting for that verdict. Xander, go ahead.
I've got a question. Do you guys think perhaps he is worried that the political side of his posts can be that he might lose control of the decision making at Tesla, and so he wants to get greater control, or the politics of what he posts have nothing to do with the Tesla side, and it's just purely AI related.
I think he's worried about losing being overturned on key decisions with his ownership stake, somewhat dwindled. So he wants that bumped up, especially with AI on the horizon. That's why I think we're kind of past the point of like, Twitter sitter kind of stuff. Like he's, says, whatever he wants. So I think like we're well past that. But thanks for bringing that up, Dan. I was just gonna say, like, Alexander, don't they just basically? I know there's the formality of the vote and the meeting to actually enact it, but really, isn't this about this case being resolved. By the way, I read that this case, the person that brought the case on in Delaware has 9 shares of stock. How does that make everyone feel?
He's a short seller. That's what I wanted to bring up. Like, and I apologize for jumping in. This guy is a short seller who basically is put forward as a shareholder to come forward with a case. It's not a real, like, it's not like, what's his name, the Korean guy who's got like billions of dollars of Tesla, like doing
Kogwan.
Yeah, it's not Kogwan. Like, this is an actual attempt for extortion, based on it, because you can go to court over these things. If it looks egregious, you just sue and you hope to settle, right? And just for like everyone's background, and that's what, like, I have no idea how these like mountains come out of mouse holes from tweets. This was a very widely known lawsuit that's been going on. When Elon, his comp came out, I think in 2016, it was a 10-year plan, I think, and he did it in 6 years. There were 12 tranches, and it was lauded. And before it went into enacted, they hired consultants from USC Marshall Business School, McKinsey, like, Deloitte. Like, they brought in experts, academia and from business, and said it was actually lauded as the ideal compensation structure for all CEOs, because it usually management, as Stat was saying before, usually management gets paid stock, but also huge sums of cash. That's to reward them in case like some of the equity pricing is outside their control. Management wants cash because, like, hey, they're like, we can do the best we can, but we can't control the market. So there's usually a hedge with cash, like large cash components. Um, Elon took it 100% in cash, and everyone thought he was going to get paid zero because Tesla was well below 40 billion in market cap when the plan enacted, and it had it going up to 650 billion for him to get through it all. And people laughed at him and said he wasn't going to get anything. And then what happens is he took a 10-year plan, went through it in like 5.5 years, and they were like, "Holy shit!" Now, to be fair, there were no strings attached to the sales, and he only had to keep, I believe, the market cap value was 6 months rolling, and there were no restrictions on the sales, and hence then the Twitter purchase, because he was burning a hole in his pocket. Um, and I think people just saw the opportunity where, like, if you were short Tesla, like, people were like, okay, let's just do and get something back. And this guy has, there's a group of them. You can actually look him up. It's all public records filing, and if anyone has like legal software, some of it's free. You can go see the guy's name. He's been widely attached to other lawsuits in the past. And I personally think that this is like a nothing burger. He does need a compensation plan, but there's no chance in hell anything's getting approved until this court case is done. I think that my interpretation, Elon is great at making things seem spurious and not thought out, but I think we all, or most of us, know that everything they do is relatively intentional and usually very well planned. My interpretation of this is that, like, he's setting the stage for the next comp plan to be even higher in market cap and even higher in compensation. But if there's blowback because it's quote unquote just an auto company, he's enabling the public media sphere to know that it's this is going officially outside of just cars and even energy, and that makes it on the record. So when we see any of the metrics and milestones that are associated to the market cap of the company, he is on the record now showing that this is why. I do hope that I've posted what I believe is like a good framework to start from, and some like bumpers on sales and control. The only other thing that I think where he's talking about with control, because he's not stupid, he knows you can't do 2 shares. I think he wants to be the chairman. He lost it after the 2018 case, with the funding secured. I think he wants to be CEO and chairman, and I think he wants to get compensated to get back to 25%. And if you look at where the market cap today is, it's about a $200 billion package, give or take. And I think that's where he's kind of staying, where he wants to. That's kind of like where this package is going to land. So I think this is him saying, like, he has no intention of going anywhere. He plans to further the company's mission, both on energy, but also introducing AI and some of the other things that we're aware of. But he does obviously expect to get paid for it. But I think it's really just more putting this out in the universe. I was pissed personally that he launched the Twitter grow AI thing there, because I'm like, I was always under the impression that AI was going to be 100% part of Tesla, and then to have a separate business that's outside of it with no equity interest is a bit of a challenge for me. But I do hope that it gets pulled up underneath it.
Yeah, those are salient points. So, I mean, thanks, JP. We won't know this. I mean, there's no reason the board and Elon can't come to terms on a compensation package pending, the successful, resolution of this case. I mean, that's kind of the point I'm getting to. And then it's kind of like moves to the side. And I agree, there's a reason he's been, I don't know if it's rebranding, but definitely branding Tesla as an AI robotics company, because that is the way forward, and that's much bigger than any comp or any auto only company, right? So it's interesting, kind of just to start putting all these pieces together.
I think we should just make sure we're all talking from the same facts. So currently, there's 3.176 billion shares of Tesla outstanding.
It's more than that. It's more than that, Larry. There is a mistake on, I don't know whether you got it from Yahoo Finance. It's close to 3.5 billion.
No, 3.176 according to NASDAQ. The 3.5 includes outstanding options.
Okay.
So that's why I'm actually focused on the issued stock as opposed to outstanding options. A very large percentage of those options are Elon's, and a very significant proportion of those are, and a proportion, not a significant, a proportion of that of the rest of the employees. So that's why we use 3.5 million as fully diluted. So of the 3.1 million, he currently owns 412 million shares, and he has options on another 304. So if you look at fully diluted, if all the options are in fact exercised, then we're at 3.5 million roughly, of which he has 412 million, and he has options for 304, which taken together is 716 of 3.5, which is almost 20%. So it wouldn't be a stretch to get him to 25%. But they would be options, and one would assume that he wouldn't buy all those shares in order to actually exercise his options because of tax. So it's going to be, heavy lifting to get him to 25%, frankly. And people should be aware of that.
Yeah. Larry, can I ask you a question, or Jeff or Alexandra? I'm just curious, and I know you're a big shareholder. What do you think the motive, if Elon's secondary comment on the tweet was more conciliatory to the board, calling it great and they're going to work it out, but it's the court case holding it up? What is the benefit, or what is the thinking Elon is doing about tweeting this out publicly about the 25%, and he might not really go as hard as possible on Tesla AI or robotics if he doesn't get that threshold? What is the benefit to Tesla shareholders on the open market tomorrow as the stock maybe goes down? Is there any consideration of Elon in that? I know there's not, but don't you think it should? And in the quiet period, does that give you any concern, or it doesn't matter to you?
No, I am not. I don't hold the executive management of a board responsible to maintain the daily share price of the company, frankly. I don't think that's their role.
No, I agree with that. I'm talking more about why even put it out there? If the board's great, why would you start with, I need 25%? Why wouldn't you just keep it quiet and just go on your business?
Christian, because he's Elon Musk, he responds to his retail investors' concerns on X. That's just the way he is, and there's been a drumbeat of noise on X, led by quite a few very committed shareholders. A drumbeat of them saying, we need to get him a compensation plan, and that gets him to express his perspective. Now, that's not usual. That's not standard. That's not how most executives operate. Most executives will tend to avoid that kind of comment and avoid that kind of, consternation. But that's not how Elon works. And so the pressure or the noise or the whatever you want to call it from retail shareholders active on X, influencers, if you like, had got him to comment, and he was snared into commenting. Now, I won't actually, that's a very bad word, not snared into, he was led into, he wasn't even led, he found himself unable to stop from commenting. And so, yes, that's not the behavior of a CEO. That's not the behavior of an executive. That's certainly nothing I would do. But I'm not Elon Musk, and he does it. And so that's where we are. And thank God we are where we are with him. You either love him or hate him. I'm very grateful to him, and as are many other shareholders. And those who hate him, will use this against him. It's just the world we live in, guys. Get used to it.
Can I add something to that, Larry, that's a little bit more detail specific? There were 2 court cases going on simultaneously that Elon cares gravely about. The one is his compensation plan, but the one he really cares about, he is bringing the 2018 guilty plea to the SEC funding secured to the Supreme Court. He was fighting it in California local. It went through California state. He is literally bringing it to a federal state. He's trying to get it heard at the Supreme Court because he wants it expunged. As part of that guilty plea, he had to relinquish his chairmanship of Tesla board of directors. The chairman has an additional vote in addition to their deliberate vote in board meetings. So the chairman control is an additional vote if needed, if they really believe in it, in management or whatever's going on. So I think all of this is very much tied towards him expunging the 18 funding secured guilty plea. He wants that out. He wants to be chairman and CEO of Tesla again. And he's essentially got a fiefdoms of president underneath him in different business verticals. But I think he's putting this out there saying, these are the verticals that were always part of the Tesla's plan. I am the person that should be in control of all these verticals. It's not just a car company, and that's why it's not just like an auto CEO. And the compensation plan has bigger incentives because the company's plans are bigger than one single plan, right? Like if Bezos could go back and redo his comp plan, even though he's extremely wealthy now, he would have 100% done what Elon did 10, 15 years ago.
I disagree with all of the above. I'm sorry, JP. I disagree entirely. I don't think that Elon does all of these sums in his mind. I think he talks exactly the way he feels, regardless of these court cases. Look, you don't confuse the one with the other. I think that he has a very clear case on the compensation plan. I think he's won every single round of it so far. This is the final appeal. I have very little doubt he's going to win it. I don't think anybody's questioning he'll win it. I think most people are of the opinion that he's not going to win the attempt to second guess the SEC ruling that he signed off on. I'd be surprised if he does. Others may view it differently. I don't think the two are tied together. I think he'd like to be chairman again. He's going to be chairman again once the period expires anyway, unless the SEC tries to move against him again. Depends on who.
It expired last
It
year.
expired.
It
So it
expired
depends
last
on
year.
who's going to be president next year and who's going to be the head of the SEC. So actually, it's not expired. I don't think he can be chairman yet. But
Oh, he could have actually become. I made a segment on that. He could have become in 2023, which was actually a year where they voted on that one, where it was the renewal of both Elon and Robin Denholm, and they presented her for the chair position, and so now she has it for 3 years.
okay, well,
again.
I think that was a good decision. I think he will be the next chairman of the company if he's still with the company. I think we have a very real risk that he will step down from the company. I wouldn't put it as a majority risk. I would put it as a minority risk. I think it's like 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. But I think JP, conflating the two issues, I think I don't think it's real. Anyway, bottom line is I think that he's with Elon, you get what you see. You see what you get, and you get what you see. He just tells it the way he feels it at that time, and that's the way it is. And so, I don't think that we're going to see any change in his view. That's just my view, anyway.
Yeah, Larry, I completely agree with you. I was going to point out that, he didn't just spring this on the community. He was responding to various posts requesting that that Elon should get paid if you want him to move forward. And there's a new post, John from Silicon Valley said, "Have you had any conversations with the Tesla board about a new compensation plan, or is I guess it on hold until the case is solved?" And Elon responded, "Waiting for the case to be decided." I was going to ask a question, which is it possible that this conversation has occurred with the board regarding Elon's comp plan, and they're just simply, the decision was, we're not going to discuss it until this case is resolved? Like, what's the background on that?
I think a board of this caliber would just simply not raise that problem while they knew the court case is ongoing, and Elon's been very transparent about that. I don't know, Jeff may have a better perspective on that than I do, but that's my feeling.
Sorry, the perspective on which topic, Larry?
On whether this issue may have been raised within the board already. I'm just saying that I think that in a board of this caliber, they would not, respecting the legal situation, they would not have raised that issue yet.
Oh, in the meeting itself. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'd have to imagine that there's been some form of conversation about, I can't believe this would be the first time, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to ponder. I'm just, when I step back, I'm pleased that there's a little bit more clarification, more context added. I think, again, a lot of this is, again, playing out on X. It's amazing. And I'm, it's hard to encapsulate everything in in a kind of a short, 160 character, or less tweet. So I'm glad that there's some clarification being added. I wish it wouldn't play out in this forum, but it is. And, this is where we're at. So, I mean, I think we've all learned a lot in terms, I would say we've learned a lot. And I think there's also context that now to why certain parts of the company are where they are today and where they could be in the future, and really where the emphasis of the company is and where it's going. So part of that is actually settling for me, and I'm actually pleased about that. But yeah, I don't know if others have comments. we're all in stunned silence.
No, we're not. I think one topic we all want a little bit of clear guidance on, and I hope that Elon gives us that at the end of the month, is how his companies will intertwine, right? I mean, there will be stuff like Grok, which will be used by Tesla. I still have the big belief that Dojo will be the basis for lots of services that X will provide. So I think that's I think that's a very legitimate claim from us shareholders to him to understand how this all works, and actually this compensation package and his willingness to continue putting AI in the center of Tesla gives me some comfort there, but I still would like to have some more information on that, and I don't know how you all feel about that.
If Elon is going to use Tesla engineers, especially on the autopilot team at X or at XAI, which it sounds like he's done at both, to help solve issues or work on problems, then I think it's only right for Tesla shareholders to say, okay, then why can't Tesla own some sort of percentage of XAI if the integration is going to be that tight? So, and to Elon's credit, he did say, I think in November last year, that this is something he would bring up to the board of directors at Tesla, but I don't know if he's done that.
He did say that Tesla would eventually receive equity compensation relative to the Twitter deal at some point too. So, but Sawyer, I agree with you. If the employees and potentially data are being used to enrich one or the other, there definitely needs to be some sort of equity compensation going back and forth.
Yeah, but that could be like a leased employee expense, and that they could be compensated on the financials. Tesla can be compensated on the financials.
Yeah, but I agree. But my point is, you can't. You're taking if you give in a resource from one company to another, you're taking it away from Tesla. And you could make the argument that FSD version 13 could be here faster, or Robotaxi could be faster if the best AI people didn't go to Twitter for 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is, right? So that's where it gets murky.
Well, they've done that with SpaceX and Tesla all the time. Other companies do that with each other to collaboratively help each other. They don't have a compensation equity exchange.
No, the Tesla to SpaceX, you can apply and move over and quit your job permanently, but like
No, that's not correct, JP. The Tesla and SpaceX have a formal agreement. They share right now the at least one team that I'm very aware of, which is the metallurgy team. They have a team that is jointly funded by both parties, and they share that. But SpaceX uses Tesla batteries. The Tesla energy people do make a design adaptations for SpaceX's requirements. So there is a strong legal relationship that is implemented, legal agreements, and I believe I'm going back a couple of years now that was actually in a quarterly 10Q, but they have relationships and they do share them.
Oh, I was aware of that. I know the metal one and the batteries, and obviously the SpaceX uses Model X in the vehicles and even the Cybertruck, but the software and the data licensing that's a little bit grayer area than like physical materials. And those obviously you can buy parts and rent vehicles and all that stuff, like that's fine. But if the AI value is so crucial, like Tesla's got neural net for how many years now, of how much driven, of how much input that they have, that they can make the bot as intuitive as it is already now. Like, my point is, like, you can't exactly just give that to Twitter for free. and there hasn't been anything brought up as far as Tesla getting any reciprocation from Twitter value back if that's the case. So
I think, yeah, JP, I think what it comes down to is these AI engineers, they are in a very competitive field, right? They can go to OpenAI, they can go anywhere they want. They get stock compensation, they get cash compensation. So for them just to have integrated Tesla is already too much of a huge boat for them. This doesn't give them the 100x kicker that they're hoping for when they're going to OpenAI or when they're going somewhere else. So I think it was only normal that Elon set it up in a small, very, concentrated manner that would give them a huge upside, and that allowed them to have that participation in this new structure. Then, if I recall it right, Larry may know better than me, is he now offered the shareholders that helped him acquire X, that X will get 25% of XAI. So that's also him. If I remember right, he has about 79% of X. So that's that thing. And there's still this unanswered question that he actually asked himself, or at least said he's entertaining himself on whether Tesla should invest in XAI or vice versa. And I think that's just a question that's open. I'm in no way, pleading for one answer or another. I would just like to know. I'm not, this is not one of my passions. I think there was just very economical and basic reasons to form XAI the way it is, to make sure that the best talents had the upside they are expecting. But it's also clear that Tesla shareholders would like to have a stake of that the same way than the X shareholders get a stake of it.
Yeah,
so where does this go from here?
I think these are very,
not the specific topic about what's in which group, but just you had the comments from Elon today. You had the clarification. Where does everyone see this going from here in terms of next steps?
That's a very good question, Jeff. One of the facts of life is that we became shareholders of Tesla when we were very aware that Elon had a very significant investment in SpaceX. Actually, at the time, he had several other investments that people didn't really pay attention to, but he did. Some of those have been sold, but he's added Neuralink, he's added the Boring company, and now he's added X, and he's added XAI. So we've always been aware that there are these different interests. We're only becoming aware now of the interplay of those interests in terms of skill sets, intellectual property, data, and opportunity. And the nexus of those have, I think, everybody a Twitter, if I may use that word. So I think those are legitimate questions. I think, it's Elon's opportunity to give us an answer to that. We've always known that he has these multiple interests, and really we have only ourselves to blame if we have concerns with that right now. But he's been very transparent, very open, very clear about these interests. So I, as a shareholder, have no qualms. I mean, I'm moving forward. I understand what XAI is. I understand what X is. I understand what Tesla is, and I understand what Tesla's role is. And the fact that he has started the bot within Tesla makes all the sense in the world to me, compared to starting XAI externally from Tesla, because XAI is kind of it uses some of the ideas that are in Tesla, some of the ideas that are X. I think X has a much bigger interest in XAI than Tesla does. But I think there's value add for all of those companies, and there's reasons for all of those companies to share between one another. But this is a conversation that was held and argued over when Elon had the investment in the solar company, and then the solar company was brought in and didn't add very much to the equation. So on balance, I'm going along with where Elon is. I made an investment in Twitter. I would be happy to make an investment in XAI, and I'm happy with my investment in Tesla. I mean, Tesla's got its hands full right now. I don't think it needs anything more. Anyway, that's my view.
Yeah. I would say. Oh, sorry, Larry.
No, I
go
just
ahead.
one comment, and Larry, I appreciate your level-headedness here and the opportunity to speak. Just the thing that doesn't make sense to me is Elon's a steward for shareholders, and obviously he's thinking about the long-term future of Tesla and his voting. But if the board is tied at the moment, given this outstanding lawsuit, what value does it bring to Tesla, its shareholders, the board, or Elon at this specific point to say, unless I get 25% voting control, I'm going to go take my bat and ball and go play somewhere else?
No
It just
value at
seems,
all. No, I think the point
yeah.
is well made, but I don't think Elon would have said that, except that he's been drawn to it by this conversation that we forced him into, or that we've lured him into.
I agree with you, Naveen. I kind of made that same point, and Larry kind of tried to answer it, and I agree with that. But I'll say to Jeff's question directly, it just gives more uncertainty. I get it long term, but we are dealing in the world. So what I would say though, you need to, and I hope Larry would share this, or any investor in Tesla would share this. Elon's opened up the possibility. At least you have to think about the possibility. What if he doesn't get the comp package? Just what if he doesn't get it, right? Odds are he does. Maybe it's 80%, but maybe it's 20%. It doesn't work out like that. It seems like Elon's painted himself a corner that with his tweet, his own words, he said, if he doesn't get a certain ownership, he won't go pedal to the metal in AI and robotics for Tesla. And as the Tesla CEO, that's not a good outcome for the Tesla investor who wants Tesla to appreciate to trillions of market cap over the next few years if your CEO can't get fully behind it because of his ownership stake. So I would just say to everyone out there, just consider that. Maybe things don't go out the way and he doesn't get his comp package, and then you kind of have a problem. I'm just being realistic.
Christian, I do feel I need to respond to that because you addressed that to me, and I'll shut up. Look, you're not wrong, but you're not right. Because all he's doing is telling you the way it is and the way it was. Nothing's changed. He's not threatening you. He's just telling you the way it is. He's saying that I'm waiting for my comp plan for this court case to end. I trust this board. That's what he said. I love this board. I trust this board. And, I think it'll be okay. And that's what he's saying. But if it's not okay, if this board does block him, if this board doesn't give him a good comp plan, I'll move on. And he has every right to do, because he's under 12% or whatever of the company. And in doing so, by the way, he would lose a hell of a lot of money. He would lose about $100 billion of his options, which will go away. So, I wouldn't.
No, absolutely, Larry, and it wasn't directed. I was just making. You're just stating what I said. Like he said it, and it would be So no, totally. I'm not worried about it. I'm just saying his own words have said that he cannot go full board because he's worried about the state of the company if it gets overrun because of what Tesla is doing with AI. That he would not feel comfortable in pushing hard because if it got in the wrong hands or Tesla got in the wrong hands, that he would not feel comfortable. I'm just saying that is a downside risk that people should consider. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's being spun into Elon's leaving, and it's all over. That's not what he's saying, right? There's so much to Tesla, and he responded with pointing out that Tesla is a not just one company; it's an ETF, right?
I think that's the
Like he
key.
said, it was a bunch of
To
startups. Like it's a bunch of
In
startups in one, which I grant you. I'm just all I'm saying is, and Elon's also said Tesla's not worth very much without FSD, and I think Optimus is the more important thing. And again, I do get excited when I see those videos. So I guess part of me is just a little bit sad that this is taking place. Again, maybe I'm just an idiot, but I mean I just don't like this type of issues being aired out. I know Elon's Elon, but Elon, there's Elon 5 years ago was a bit different Elon now because he owns X and he's doing different things, and I admire that. But what I'm saying is there has been a change in the way a bit that the way he does things, and I mean if you can't see that and his evolution as a person and his evolution as an entrepreneur, and I understand he had SpaceX and all these things, but he's taken it to the next level, and I give him credit, and he's the greatest entrepreneur ever. I'm just saying that when you have a lot of more things on your plate, in addition to what he had in the past, and you're taking all this new risk with X and things of that nature, there at some point there's only so much bandwidth in your brain that you can take. And I know he has a great team at Tesla, but it takes a toll. That's all. I'm just saying, Elon the person, Elon the man. Um, I just worry sometimes that he's doing so much that it's hard to nail down. That's just my little personal thing. So if no one agrees with that, that's fine. I'm just stating my opinion, and if someone out there gets some value out of it, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's not really thinking from a first principles approach here. I mean, if he's getting goaded into responding, the analogy that I think of here is like we all signed up for this ride. We all knew what we got when we bought a ticket to, buying into a company controlled by Elon. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a shareholder. But it's sort of like we're in the middle of this ride, and all of a sudden he just turns around, looks at the passengers, and he says, "All right, guys, unless X happens, you know, I'm out. And I'm gonna take sort of, things with me unless I get what I want." And that to me is like no different than like what he was trying to do when he mentioned that Bob Igor was holding him hostage over X in advertising. I mean, it just seems like a very immature thing to do. I get the logic, I get the thesis, I get the way that he's thinking about it, and I think he's playing this from approach of he sincere wants to do the best for humanity. It just seems like this is a very short-sighted thing to do at the expense of the shareholders when there's nothing the board can really do at this point.
Naveen, I disagree with that. I think if you have heard Elon discuss the threat of AI falling into the wrong hands, in my mind, that is the only place where this demand is coming from.
The thing is, I'd rather have transparency from a CEO. That's why he's changing things. The other CEOs don't say anything. They stay behind the PR department. They don't say anything. You don't know what they're thinking. They do the same thing and they don't succeed. So Elon's actually being, forthright and it's saying it even before it happens. So I'd rather value that honesty and exactly know where he wants to go. And XAI is an X. Like Grok is an X. He's already diversified out of it. He's not doing everything in Tesla. So if he's not gonna get that in Tesla, he just makes another company and so forth. He's done it already. So I don't think it's any different than he's already been doing. He's just vocalizing it now.
I think the biggest issue with these type of posts that he made tonight is it leaves up too much for interpretation and causes people to speculate to sometimes to wild degrees, and then all these side narratives start getting created, and then maybe sometimes a lot of journalists follow all of us. They lead to crazy headlines in the news, and then of course Elon had to
Completely
come back
agree.
and clarify
Completely agree.
a lot of this. So it's not helpful, but Elon, he just can't help himself sometimes.
But which actually happened twice today, and we're there as guilty of all that because we watch obviously every letter, every phrase, every tweet he makes. The first one was the bot, right? I think it would have been really helpful if the initial announcement was already that it's teleoperated, which is all fine, but it just created this whole vague of emotions. And then the second one is obviously him replying, which is, as Larry said, which is Elon. That's what we love him for. But then by having the interruption before finally the whole reasoning comes up, the whole universe had the time to speculate and go in all different directions, and it was just a lot of noise for nothing. I mean, I just hope that everybody's reassured if tomorrow the stock price goes down, it is because people are uneducated about it. This is just a case of he will get his compensation package, they will hash it out, they will have all the lawyers on it to make it as waterproof as possible, and but they will have to obviously wait for this judgment of Delaware to get out, or they feel they have to wait for that, or find a loophole around it. So it's just going to take time. So I don't think there was really much need for all these emotions that arose. GP, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Alexander, there's a lot of requests from people online for you to hold them, hug them, and hold them. Are you helping people?
You mean to pull them up as speakers?
Physically, no, physically hold them because mommy, the stock is gonna go down.
They want the boomer mama to hold them.
They want the mama. Oh, you see, the mama is here. I can hold everybody. That's what I'm here for, right, Larry? You remember when I was holding you last time?
Yeah, too well.
I got a kiss from Larry. That was so
I
cute.
hope we don't have a photograph of
now the real space starts.
Exactly. Now we go. Now we're talking package.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Hey guys, this was fantastic. I appreciate you all. I gotta go, but interesting conversation. And you buy Tesla, you get what you get, and that's the nature.
Right,
That's the nature of the man. I believe I understand him, and so I'm probably not the right person to consult in this thing. I really appreciate the guy and I appreciate what he's doing, and that's about it for me. Thanks, guys. So talk to you all later.
Thanks for your wisdom, Larry. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Larry. Waiting for the next kiss.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming, Alexandra.
Okay, JP, we cut you. Go ahead.
No worries. And I don't mean to harp on it, but Christian, I understand the concerns, and his tweets can be a little bit like clickbaity. But I think Tesla is Elon's first, like it's his child, like it's his baby. I don't think he's going anywhere. I do believe, I don't want to disagree with Larry, but I do think the court cases, like Elon kind of plays like a nerd aloof, like on Twitter, an informed opinionator, but like when it comes to X's and O's of financials and legalese, he knows both of them stone cold, right? So nothing he's saying is where he doesn't already know. He basically went to rescind the 28 case. I've reposted the links in public court. The 2018 case, sorry. He was found not guilty, basically undoing the original guilty plea. In about a month ago, he went to the Supreme Court, which I did not even realize this was still the case. Elon has any tweet about Tesla still has to be reviewed by a lawyer. So that would explain why there has been less Tesla tweets as much as there have been other tweets of other things, because they literally have to go to someone else to review. So Elon can't really tweet about Tesla at midnight or randomly, right? It's got to get approved and then put out. I think that is going back and forth to remove that muzzle, because he has now been found not guilty, that the tweet wasn't really invalid. I think once that happens and then this court case settles, this is just, I don't know if it was that or Xander or whatever, like, and to Jeff's point or Alexander, yours, I think he's just putting it on the table that like this next comp plan is going to be even bigger than the last one by a lot. And the metrics to meet are going to be larger, and maybe even some of the operational will be outside of auto and energy, and that we should just be prepared. And that's why Tesla as a company is going to be valued significantly higher than others, not just Apple and Aramco. Maybe it's Apple, Aramco, Amazon, whatever else, Nvidia, etc. going forward. So I don't think that this is I think it's
Yeah.
it's
Not to
nice
cut
for
you
your
off, Jay, but
cause.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not questioning Elon's genius. The only thing I'm doing, and what I always done, is I just look at what's being said, look at the actions, and then I just make logical determinations. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just making logical things in my head, and it usually turns out right in the short term or medium term or long. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not questioning Elon. I'm not questioning his brilliance. I'm not questioning the long term future of Tesla. What I am questioning is, at some point, he has shareholders. And I've been saying this and I'm consistent with this. And if people disagree with me, that's great. That's what America's about. It's a difference of opinion. I believe at some point, and I understand Elon, he's a smart man, though. He does realize that people own the stock, right? At some point, you would take a little bit of consideration to know when you put things out like this, it creates more uncertainty. And there's a lot of small shareholders out there that, might not be as sophisticated and holding capital and reserves and things of that nature. And these actions can really hurt shareholders in the short and medium term, and sometimes even the long term. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying some basic things that isn't crazy.
I
Yeah.
understand. But do you know what happened today? First of all, the stock market was closed. Coincidence or not, we'll never know. Second, we have all now already taken for granted he's going to have a comp package that gets him in the end to 25%. This has become now knowledge, and it's held up by a stupid court case of a short seller of 9 Tesla things that we're going to look at. And once that is done, the whole thing has now his own identity and is more or less accepted by the retail space and probably by the institutionals as well. I mean, genius. I don't know whether he planned it. May have been just all completely spontaneous, but the result is there. This has been now approved by our common knowledge.
Yeah, and if I can add, they have added. I know for a fact that the second comp plan went to consultants like 2 years ago, maybe slightly more, because it was very clear that the first one was going to finish early. So it's not like spur of the moment where this has just come up and the board's blindsided and no one knows. This has been ongoing dialogue on like what's going to be adequate, and to the benefit of the board and to Elon, this lawsuit's been in motion for a long time. Um, so they know what the new plan's going to be. Everything that people are trying to critique in court on the current one is going to be even more bulletproof in the next one, so that this doesn't happen again. The other thing that you mentioned, Christian, about logically thinking about things that happen. So Elon and all the shit that he's got going on went to court last year, sat 9 hours for deposition in his defense to get the 2018 thing out, just to show you of all the stuff he had going on, like how much he cares about getting this expunged. He sat there in the courtroom, but then didn't go to the verdict day. But during the courtroom speech, so this is post him buying Twitter, he said he could have taken Tesla private even without the Saudis, because he would have just sold SpaceX stock and he would have been able to do it. And the immediate point to was him selling Tesla stock to take Twitter private. So like when you say like what are the logical things that are being done and what he's saying, like he literally basically bought Twitter to prove that a take private can be very messy, but it can happen, especially if you have other assets and you can sell them and you're willing to do that because you believe in something. And that's what he did. So he won that. Now, the only thing that's left from the 2018 case is getting the removal of his tweets about Tesla getting approved by a corporate lawyer. And I think then this, once the comp thing's settled, like, I don't want to say it's smooth sailing because there literally hasn't been for like 8 years of with Tesla, or never essentially, but like all of the biggest issues essentially could be removed that are either quasi self-inflicted or, you know, controllable, outside of out of Elon and Team Tesla's like impact. So I hear you that like regular investors could get spooked by this, but like to be fair, you shouldn't just be buying a company because some guy tweets. Like, you should be doing the homework and looking at the history and knowing what you're going into for the longer term. And like that's why some of this stuff isn't as important as it sounds if you look at the entire history of what's been going on.
No, and I agree with that. I'm just giving, like, I'm also like just giving, day-to-day stuff the way I feel and the way I think, like everybody does. So, I agree with, some of what you're saying, but it's not me worried. I don't even have that huge a stake in Tesla. I traded a lot. So it's not even,
That's it. You're
no, but
trying to
I'm just
drive the price
commenting on what
down.
I see.
You're
I'm
trying to drive the
commenting on what
price
I
down
see.
below
Christian,
200. That's
Yeah,
what
I'm
it is.
commenting what I see. And I'm just saying, like, you can't say as a Tesla shareholder that today was a good day. It's
no,
just, it's
no,
just,
no.
it's just not.
No, but Christian, I think so. That's just where I think you get in trouble. If you're trading Tesla, it's not a good day. If you're invested in Tesla, this is like a pimple on the back of a rhino that's been going up and down a mountain for 8 years, and it's like it's another thing that doesn't matter, and it's just gets it basically just snowballs into these like tweet storms and news presses of nothingness. But in reality, it's like, is the plan going forward? Is Elon there? Is there going to be a comp plan? Right? Is there a ballpark of what would make Elon happy? Yes. If he owns whatever 14% of the company now or whatever to get to 25, that's not huge, especially if it's going to be 6 to 8 trillion plus company. So like I'm with you. I think trading, if I bought Tesla in 2022, I'd be pissed. But like you got to understand kind of what when you buy it and what you think your investment thesis is for when you're going to sell it. I don't think anyone quote unquote trades Tesla well. No one I think really makes money trading Tesla because whatever you think's going
I
on.
have. I'm going to post it one day. So, I keep saying it, but no one believes it. I've traded Tesla impeccably. So I agree it's hard, but you can do it if you focus.
Yeah, it's not for the rookie or the average person. It would be very challenging. I think most people it'd be like, when was the best time to sell Apple or buy Apple? And it was the answer has always been yesterday, right? Is when you should buy it and sell it 5 years from now. It's going to be the same thing with Tesla, but like at a multitude, maybe 10x more of what they can do.
Hey, Omar, thanks for joining. Do you have anything to weigh in after reading the title of this space and listening to the discourse?
Well, I think that it's probably going to be okay. It doesn't really sound like, we hear this every week. There's something or the other he tweets, and people say, oh my God, he shouldn't have tweeted that. He shouldn't have tweeted about politics. He shouldn't have tweeted about, his compensation, whatever. And ultimately, I believe the value of the company is going to be determined by its future cash flows and not the most controversial tweet of the week. So, I mean, I think Elon was walking around Tesla today. And imagine you walk into this room where a bunch of fucking robots are folding shirts. And you just see all these robots and people are training them. Then you get out into your Tesla, you drive FSD 12 to the airport. And this guy's thinking, fuck, I don't have enough Tesla shares. So, based on his follow up tweet, I agree it does have some potential to spook the market, but, you know, probably immaterial long term. I might be a buyer if it sort of falls artificially. It sounds like from his follow up tweet, there isn't any type of rift between him and the board where, you know, he hates them about this compensation package. He's trying to lash out at Tesla. That doesn't seem to be the case. It's because of this shareholder lawsuit where they're saying his compensation package is excessive. Naturally, you can understand why they would want to wait for that to be done before awarding him another compensation package. So I think that's all well and good. I mean, to me, it's I hadn't really thought about it from Elon's perspective, honestly. That okay, really, why would he build new products inside of Tesla if he has more control at a different company, really? And for something with AI, where he's always just been harping on AI safety, how potentially dangerous the technology could be in the world, this isn't something where we want the company to be taken over by, Exxon or some, group that's not necessarily going to steward the company as well as the founders would. So I think kind of at the end of the day, you should either give him a compensation package or fire him and hire somebody else. And I think you should have a compensation package where the top tranche is, hitting a $4 or $5 trillion valuation, hitting a $1 trillion revenue goal. They should be pretty ambitious, but the last compensation package was a massive success for us shareholders. It was a massive success. We incentivized him to do something they said was impossible. He did it and then some. Even with everyone whining about, oh my God, it's down from all-time highs, it's still above that top $650 billion tranche. So I think if you incentivize this guy, he will do it. He'll make sure that it happens, and probably the options will vest. So I don't really see any downside. It does kind of seem like Elon has been taken for granted a little bit. People say, well, why shouldn't he work for free? He's got all these shares, but if he doesn't go into work, or he does go into work, he still has the same amount of shares. He's got a lot of other things bothering him. He's got a rocket. He's got a failing social media company where the advertisers are pulling their dollars. And he's putting in all this time at Tesla. And people go, oh, he never tweets about Tesla enough, you know? But then when he tweets about Tesla, they go, oh, why did he tweet FSD's coming in 2 weeks and it didn't? So there's always this criticism. And it does kind of seem like people have been saying, oh, Elon's an idiot. He's damaging the company with his political tweets. He's making huge strategic mistakes. He shouldn't be cutting the pricing. Basically, he's the worst CEO ever. And he's doing this for free. And, he's just so terrible. So I think it's really time for shareholders to make a decision. Is he hurting the brand? And is he a net negative? In which case, let's let him go. Let's let him do his own thing, and we'll hire a different CEO. But frankly, I don't see anyone who can fulfill the vision of Tesla as an AI and robotics company. Few people who really believe in FSD and robotics the way he does. So I'm not sure. It could maybe be a great car company, but I'm not sure about the AI and robotics thing. So that's kind of one option we have as shareholders. And I think a lot of people forget Tesla is not Elon's. Tesla belongs to the shareholders. We elect the management, right? So we have to decide, okay, is he a net negative politically? That kind of stuff, should we let him go? I think that would be a huge mistake. Or do we give him a compensation package that aligns our interests with his? And it seems like he feels pretty strongly about this. It seems like there's nearly unanimous sort of retail investor support. I think this is probably going to get worked out as soon as we get the verdict in the lawsuit.
Is there anything that can be done to speed up lawsuit, or is this just the wheels
No,
of justice?
you have to wait for the court.
Yeah, the legal system's just slow, so it'll happen at some point. I do think that there is some eyebrow raising things that has happened with the Twitter acquisition. For example, they talk in the Isaacson book about bringing some engineers over to help with Twitter stuff, and yeah, they can come as friends extracurricularly, but it is kind of an eyebrow raise. You do have kind of a situation where one of them was his cousin. His cousin went over, sure, but then they talk about like Duvall, who's like the guy who was working on FSD 12, and he's telling him to come to work to Twitter, and the guy's having to say, "Hey, you know, I really need to work on this. This is really important for Tesla." So imagine if he had pulled that guy off V12 and sent him to X instead. Where would we be? So hopefully, as part of the compensation package, they can kind of resolve this. And I think if he did have an incentive package where he's rewarded for doing this within Tesla, he will want to do it within Tesla. He has an enormous amount of his wealth tied up in Tesla. Let's not forget that as well. But I think that should be resolved as well. But I think that can be resolved. There's a few different ways you could do it. Just the incentive package itself, I think, would incentivize him to make sure that it's the number one priority. Because then you can solve other issues like Twitter debt just by making sure Tesla executes well. So there are some sort of minor things there, but overall, there really is only one Elon Musk in the world. And I think Tesla could be a great car company, but to be the leader in AI and robotics, we probably need Elon at the helm. His ability to recruit people, build that team, his track record as, someone who's been there at Tesla since the beginning, I think. I mean, who else are we going to find who could replace him at this juncture?
There's no one, literally. Steve Jobs, dig him up, but that's it.
Well, the Nikola CEO was just sent to jail, so he was a candidate, but no, he's not available.
But there's this big window of ambiguity now that's been created. I'm not saying what Elon did wasn't justifiable, but like, why all of a sudden just create this big cloud that will be used as like an attack vector? This is sort of like the opposite of, like, he said he sold all his homes, got rid of a lot of assets because he wanted to reduce the surface area that people can attack him and attack Tesla. And now all of a sudden, by doing this, you just open up this sort of like, okay, well, there's
That's not how it
ambiguity.
happened. No, I don't think that's not how it happened. I mean, I do believe what GP says, meaning that they've been working on this for months, which is normal. No board just pulls this out of hot air. So they know where they want to go with that. And then the lawyer said, you have to stop. You can't go further because there's still this, what is it called, Tarrant against Musk case in Delaware that's not resolved. At the same time, loads of us, including Omar, including me, Amy, many of us have been, saying he really needs a compensation package. He really needs one because we meant well, because we really feel like it's not normal for more than a year and a half now that he's not paid, and wanted to make sure he understood that retail investors and the most vocal among us have his back, and then Elon, how he is, and I mean, I don't like that this was in the silent period because he may be reprimanded once again for that. But on the other side, it was on a day when the market is closed, and he clarified afterwards everything that we needed to actually de-escalate the whole thing. But he felt the need to answer over this long weekend when the market was closed. So nobody had any, stock price action based on that. He clarified it. He then made further statements that made it very clear that this is all linked to this yet unsolved old case that, he'll most likely win, but as long as it's not won, either we have to sit it out or we have to find a loophole. And like I said earlier, I actually, what I love about it is it's out there now. I mean, the advantages of these things when you pull these whole stories out is everybody got acquainted in half a day to this 25% limit. For me, it's never been a problem, but it's out there now. That's it. Nobody's putting that in question anymore. So there are actually good things coming out of it, but I don't think it was in any intention of playing four-dimensional chess or whatever. It just happened the way it happened, and Elon responded because it was the moment to respond. And I guess the only thing he did consider was that, yes, the market's closed, so nothing's going to happen of it.
I can I just add one thing? Elon and their legal team and their policy team has generally been very much ahead and very connected to outcomes. Like, it seems like they've been very plugged in. My guess is that this is probably going to go Elon's way, and they feel pretty confident in that. And I wouldn't be shocked if the judgment actually comes sooner, within the next couple of weeks. And I wouldn't be shocked if we then get a new comp plan followed by a tweet towards like master plan, part 4, whatever it is, for AI and robotics that's coming too. So I think Elon has had great. I've said this a bunch of times. I even said that he makes things seem like it's, you know seat of his pants, just tweeting and responsive. And I think he is altruistic in that. But behind the scenes, there is a teams of people that are very well organized. Things are well thought out and are being worked on at all times. And I think that's what's going on here. But just to point out, he didn't sell his houses because he was worried about being attacked. He sold his houses for his daughter, who thought that having so many material possessions was wasteful, and she was very much like anti-wealth, and he literally sold it to show that, like, hey, I'm just going to be devoted to helping people. I don't need to have big houses, and I'll just make sure you have a place to live, and I'm going to live at the factories and try to help mankind. And it was literally like a show of love for his daughter that was transitioning, and that's part of even the reason what this, what people don't know, the Twitter purchase, his daughter was, he feels, was targeted and is transgender, and then disowned Elon even after he sold the houses, because he thought, they thought that he was part of the like global super rich problem. And he's been doing a lot of this like social justice to try
Yeah,
to.
I don't think we need to debate all that, GP. Omar, did you want to say something?
Look, one thing I can promise you as a Tesla investor is that Elon is going to tweet shit. And sometimes he's going to tweet crazy shit. This isn't new. I don't know, maybe you can psychoanalyze and explain why he does it, but ever since I've been a Tesla investor, he's been tweeting about Catherine the Great fucking her horse. One day when Tesla was in the Model 3 ramp and people thought the company was going to go bankrupt, he tweeted, Tesla goes bankrupt. And he posted a picture of himself next to the Model 3 and it said bankrupt. And the stock fucking shit its pants that day. And the company was actually in danger of going bankrupt. But he made a joke about it anyway. Then he got in this feud with the cave diver. He called the guy a pedo guy. The guy sued him. There was a whole media circus around that. I can think of so many other examples. There was, the funding secured thing, and Azalea Banks is at his house, and she's tweeting that Grimes told him he had a big dick, and there's all this noise, okay? So if you're a Tesla investor and you're saying, well, I'm going to invest in this company, Elon's not going to tweet anything crazy, you're in for a bad time. Because I can
No, we
guarantee you.
actually love it, Omar. I think we all love it. I mean, not every day, but in hindsight, for sure.
Well, fundamentally, the value of a company is, you can really think about it as the discounted future cash flows. In the interim, there can be all kinds of noise speculating about what those cash flows will be. Some statement, might make the stock go down in the short term. In the long term, it always reverts to how much money is this company making. So that's really the important thing to look at. I could go invest in Mary Barra. She's not going to tweet anything, but she's also not going to figure out how to make an AI robot that sells millions of units. I'm certain of that. So that's why I'm invested in the crazy guy who likes to tweet. It's ultimately because of really the growth potential of the company. And most of the stuff that we debate, a lot of people were so upset about that tweet where he said, "Oh, I'm going bankrupt," and the stock tanked that day, and everyone was upset. But did it matter ultimately? Those people made 10x on their money because of the hard work he put in actually ramping the Model 3. So, maybe you can say he shouldn't be tweeting a number of different things that he's tweeted, but, the results kind of speak for themselves. Nobody's perfect, I guess. But this level of sort of radical honesty and transparency where he's discussing issues like this with us retail shareholders here on X, where we can talk to him about any issue, where we can say, hey, I don't think he deserves a compensation plan, and get a response from him. Honestly, it's sad that people are so afraid of it, because I think the world would be better off if more CEOs were transparent at that level and cared more about interfacing with their investors than just being afraid of the market reaction all the time.
How do you think, Omar? That's well stated. Um, and you obviously have a long arc, and you've been sort of at the forefront of all of this. So appreciate your viewpoint. How do you think employees feel about this when they hear that Elon would consider just going somewhere else if he doesn't get just more shares? Like, how do you think that makes them feel?
If I may jump in, Nevin, I had a couple of employees reaching out today. Maybe it's the motherly side on me that, and I'm sure they reached out to Sawyer and Omar and other people as well. But their only concern was that they really hope the board and Elon get along. I had a couple of them, and it was always the same thing. Hope the board and Elon are not fighting. Hope they get along. Hope they're sticking together. And I think that became very clear today that they do. And I'm actually not surprised. I've written those 2 articles where I really went in depth into each of them, and I'm very fond of them. I know they're taking a lot of heat, and lots of people find they're too weak or too this or too that or whatever. I don't think so. So once they were reassured on that point, that the board is there, that there's they're all getting along and pulling together. I don't think the employees had, or at least the ones I spoke to, had any further issues with it.
I mean, I think Tesla is Elon's baby, and he knows it's going to be huge. He sees the robots. He sees what FSD is doing. He knows the company's plan. It's, no surprise that he wants to make sure that he can control it and not be thrown out. I mean, look at what happened with OpenAI. Look at what happened in so many other cases. Look at what happened to him at PayPal. But I don't think that he's seriously going to leave the company. I think it's reasonable to expect that if we don't pay him, he's not going to work for free forever when he has so many other opportunities and things to focus his attention on where he does have control. So I don't really see it as an immediate threat. Tesla owns their AI assets. Even without him, if we do have to let him go, we still have Autopilot, we still have FSD, we still have Optimus. You can put in, as competent management as you can find. No one can take that away from Tesla. But obviously, we can't just expect him to work for free. If the incentives aren't right for him to make sure Tesla is getting those ideas of his and all the attention of his, then of course, it might make sense for him to just go somewhere else where he can control it and not work at Tesla for free forever. But I think that all things considered, he would rather do it in Tesla. Having a publicly traded company, having everything sort of going already, I think it is really his preferred path forward. And it shouldn't really be surprising to anybody that he's not going to work for free forever. I mean, he's been willing to do it for some time. I think Tesla's been executing extremely well, especially on FSD. But it's not really something you can expect anyone to do in perpetuity.
I'm a casual Tesla long-term investor, and I just wanted to mention that I think employees would want him to have that too, to help align the teams for Tesla's success, for their own long-term success. And I think the compensation package will actually not only benefit the shareholders, but the Tesla team and the larger, public. So that's how I think about it.
They get equity too. That's the part of the reason they're not in the union. They all get equity. If the market cap for the next comp plan is 2 trillion, 4, 6, 8, 10, like if you're an employee working there getting shares and it's trading at 700 billion and it can 10x from here, like, yeah, I'm going to stick around for the next 10 years. So, I mean, I think we should all to your point, it's a hiring beacon. If your CEO's comp plan is tied towards market value, right? Everyone wants to work at startups because startups can moonshot. If you're at a well-funded, self-sustaining growth company that can moonshot again, it's the number one place on the planet you want to work.
I think the compensation package was not only an incentive package for Musk, I think it sent a signal to the market. Just the fact that there was this plan out there that said, look, we think we can hit a 650 billion market cap. We think we can hit this revenue target. We can hit this earnings target. And I don't want to even be paid if I can't make that. When the stock started going up 30 billion, 60 billion, 90 billion, the market started doing the math. And they said, hey, they're saying they're going to get here and here. If anything else, it's kind of like a form of guidance. where you have the richest and most capable man of the world who can hire anybody if he needs them to get the job done. And you say, hey, this guy is going to get paid billions of dollars if he can achieve these milestones. And I think market participants will look at that and say, okay, $4 trillion target. It's under 1 trillion today. Okay. I think I'm willing to jump on for this ride despite some of the risks. And I think that's kind of an underappreciated aspect of it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the market sees, 7 trillion plan or something out there like that and be like, whoa. I mean, the last time he pointed to the fence and they hit it. So it is an interesting message to the market.
Yeah, great points.
4 is too low though, Omar. I think that would be my only takeaway from that. I loved all of it, but 4 should be on the
4
table.
would make them one of the most valuable companies on earth, if not the most valuable.
I agree. I think with autos and energy, they get there. I think for all the stuff that you love the most, the robotics and autonomy and all that, like AI, like I don't think we can.
There has never been a $4 trillion company.
I know.
Unless you looked at like the East India Company or something, maybe.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this would be, I'm talking the most valuable company in the world. That should be the goal. For him to fully vest, Tesla must become the most valuable company in the world.
I agree with you, and I think that's actually a very interesting thing. I tried to think through. I didn't get far because he feels, or we all feel today. Obviously, number ones and twos are Apple and Aramco. But by the time Tesla has grown or outgrown them, do you think they will still be number 2 and 3?
Well,
I can't predict the future, obviously, but you just sort of set a target that would make them, that by today's figures, the most valuable company in the world. And I'm sure the board can figure out what's reasonable there, but I think 4 to 5 trillion would probably put it in that range of being the number 1 most valuable company in the world. Apple's at like what, 3 trillion, or I guess Microsoft's now ahead of them.
Yeah, 2.9. Microsoft is the biggest.
The crazy
Yeah,
part.
so I think 4 or 5 would be, even if, let's say, Microsoft ends up being 6 trillion, I don't think that really, takes away from the achievement. They're probably well on the way.
And I think we're all gonna have. I mean, if this all works how we hope, meaning we get that verdict soon, and we see all the details of the comp plan in the proxy statement that we'll get a couple of weeks prior to the shareholder meetings. We'll have lots of time to discuss that through. Bradford, are you still having your hand up, or?
Yeah. Did you all earlier talk about how much Elon might be asking for? We ran some math on this already, but
Go ahead, tell us.
Go for it.
Yes. So essentially, in regular stock, we believe he owns like 13% of the company, but with stock options that have essentially vested, it takes him up to 23. So like the lowest he's asking for is like 2%, which is worth like 14 billion if he just got it as a gift, but he's going to get it as stock options. But what he might be asking for is 25% of the vote after he has to pay for these 2018 stock options. So then, like, he's in a way he's asking shareholders to pay his taxes, or the board. So he could be asking for up to 60 billion essentially in stock, because on this extra 10%, he would need to pay around 40% federal tax rate or something like that. There might be a portion he pays to California and a portion he pays to Texas. So that's the value of the stock today. But then, like, if Tesla 10x's, the value is much higher. Yeah, I struggled a lot to process this news and what Elon's asking for, and I'm really glad you all are having a conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he talked about a super voting class of shares. He said it didn't seem feasible legally, But it seems like control is really the primary issue here. So there could be a number of creative solutions to give him control that have minimal cost to the shareholders in terms of stock-based comp.
Agree.
But
I think
I
that's
think he
we came down to.
expressed opposition to that in the past.
Just for me personally, though, I prefer him to be like on target with like Tesla, compared to all. I mean, SpaceX is important, but X is like less important to me, like in the short term. Like I'd rather him be focused on like Tesla AI, just from my personal perspective. So I think the package itself for me would like to help align that.
Yep.
Wow, there's so
Yes.
many articles already about Elon's post.
Oh yeah, tell us about it.
Here's one from Electric. Elon Musk complains about a smaller stake in Tesla after wasting it on buying Twitter.
I fucking hate people. Jesus Christ.
My darlings, you all got 401k money, you all got IRA money. This is the moment.
Not investment advice.
Ever.
I would say that, just to go back to the market cap value that you mentioned, Omar and Alexander, when Zach and Elon brought up Apple and Aramco, now I guess was that 18 months ago ish. I don't think that was an accident. I think they did exactly what Omar was looking to. You look at discounted future cash flows of known addressable markets, and what your penetration could be. And I think my model, independent of them saying that, forward out, for energy and autos, that to me kind of gets to that four trillion-ish market cap, most valuable company ever. I don't think that anyone, like Omar, to your post today about how Wall Street fucked up all of Tesla's previous models, will continue to fuck it up. There are no models for AI, for robots, for autonomy. Like, I don't even think Elon, I mean, Tesla might be the best company to actually understand what the potentials are, from a monetization perspective. But like, I don't think that Zach and Elon were making those targets even based on, what Optimus or the AI licensing or FST or even robotaxi fully realized could be. I think that was very much a energy, like nuts and bolts hardware and energy services company related valuation. I could, when you add in those other parts, the addressable market just gets so large so fast that I do think we'll see other companies continue to go up. Like, just for reference, it took 100+ years for one company to get to $1 trillion valuation, and then we got like 5 that went through it, and now we have, within like less than 24 months, we're in multiple trillions of valuation. So I think by the time we're at 2030 or 2035, the market value is going to be adjusted, kind of maybe another leg up. But I fully expected Tesla probably to be the most valuable company in the world, at that time. But I just think 4 or 5 is probably too low for the, probably 10-year window out.
That was just the first tranche.
Well, historically, also the generations of companies have changed depending on the technology. So whoever owns the AI, bots, software-related stuff like Dojo servers are the ones going to become the bigger companies. You see the growth in NVIDIA. So there's other companies that's going to rise up, and Apple and the ones that's big today may not be there because the industry changes, the world changes.
Well, like, do some simple math. If they sell 5 million cars and just call it like 47,000, whatever, right, is the average price, it's almost $250 billion in revenue in just selling cars at 5 million. And then if the energy targets you look at, you're looking at another conservative view of what Tesla has. If you cut it in half, it's 250 billion in energy. So you have 500 billion in revenue annualized at over, like, probably a greater than 20% margin, and that doesn't include superchargers, energy services, like that's just the hardware parts of the business. So like if Tesla's really going to clip $1 trillion in revenue in a fiscal year, the valuation of the company, if any of it is reoccurring and non-cyclical, the multiples on that are going to be huge. So I think there's a lot of upside. I think Elon knows that. I think he wants to be part of Tesla. It would be very hard to re-platform the company and get it, to make it have the same amount of sustainable growth that's self-funded. So I think I don't think there's any risk of him going anywhere because it'd be very hard to start over, especially at this time in his life in this age.
He could get more control by Tesla doing a monster share buyback. So that's just one thing to keep in mind.
I think to
Oh, no, you're not going to start that. I mean, come on, it's been enough day without talking buyback.
I think to be fair, I think the board's not huge. Once he becomes chairman again, he gets an extra vote. And he doesn't need that much. I think 60 billion would be super cheap given the market caps that we're all expecting. I kind of want him to be able to get 250 billion total over a 10-year plan would be super, that something along those lines would be where I would like it to start at, in his total compensation of hitting all the metrics. But, I think the question is
JP, you know as much as I do, and we all do. This is already, they know what they want. This is not for us giving them any ideas about milestones or whatever. They know darn well what they want to have. They're just sitting this out now. I think he's a bit impatient because he has to wait for this stupid judgment to arrive. But this is not for us to, and I'm sure whatever he put out the last 18 months of, bigger than Apple and Aramco and all that has to do with stuff they have been debating for months now. You go ahead.
I didn't hear my name specifically, Mama. Thanks for bringing me up. Just one quick point back to Omar's thing about Elon working for free. I can't think of anyone else who would have worked for free, much less a CEO. Maybe George Hotz is the only name coming to my mind. I think we need to appreciate what Elon does a little bit more. Thank you.
Completely agree. Thanks for bringing that up. Good, ladies and gentlemen, and ladies, thank you, Kristen, being there with me. You want to say something before we wrap this up? It's been going on for two hours, and we should actually all be reassured. I just want, if one thing comes out of that, please don't sell tomorrow. I mean, this would be really stupid to sell tomorrow.
Not investment advice.
Excuse me, thank you, non-investment advice.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra. I love this room. I think Elon's going to stay with Tesla. I think the 25% is about exactly what you guys were saying. He wants to see Tesla continues, and he continues to have some guidance over the AI. But if people are tweeting right now, if the robot really is the Apple phone time, Elon's got to stay there to see this through because we're getting right through this, and this is a very important time. And aren't we all glad that Ross isn't on the board of directors?
Yeah.
Let's rename the space to that.
Oh, and let's see whether he sells tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I'll make a breaking news, Sawyer. You're not going to jump in it. Let me do it first if it happens. Okay, on this good laughter, love you all. Anybody needing a hug, come and hug, and see you all tomorrow. And we're going to have a good laugh. Let that stock go down. It doesn't matter. Okay, take care. Big kiss. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.